All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a huge and maybe even a little controversial idea. What if all the world's religions, with all their differences, are actually pointing to the exact same core truth? It's a fascinating claim, so let's get right into it. So yeah, that's the big one, right? Do all roads lead to the same destination when it comes to faith? People have been arguing about this forever, but our source for this explainer, which is a lecture from 1987 by Supreme Master Ching Hai, says absolutely, yes. And not only that, but the proof is supposedly right there, kind of hidden in plain sight, inside the holy books we already know.
Okay, so to even begin to understand this idea of unity, we first have to look at why there's so much division in the first place. The source we're looking at argues that all the conflict we see between religions, well, it doesn't actually come from the original founders. It comes from a major misunderstanding of what they were really trying to say. And right up front, the source is really clear about the intention here. You can see from this quote, this isn't about trying to get anyone to switch their beliefs. Not at all. The speaker says she's just trying to clear things up, to point out a shared heritage so we can, hopefully avoid some of that conflict that comes from all the confusion.
So where does all that confusion come from? Well, according to the source, this is the root of the whole problem. You have a great master, a Jesus, a Buddha, who comes and shares a profound truth. But then after they're gone, the message starts to get, well, a little fuzzy. It gets twisted or bits get lost, and pretty soon you've got different groups fighting over it, the exact opposite of what the original teaching was all about.
Okay, so let's get to the main point. If all these original teachings were pure and came from the same place, what did they actually have in common? The claim here is pretty bold. Even though we call them by different names, the actual spiritual journey, the path itself, is identical. And this really lays out the whole argument. On the left, you've got the labels we all know: Buddhism, Christianity, Taoism, Islam. But on the right, here's the core idea from our source, that the method, the how-to of the spiritual practice, is exactly the same. Think about that for a second. It means that a really devout Christian and a really devout Buddhist, they could be on the very same path, deep down.
Okay, that's a huge claim. So where's the proof? Well, the first piece of the puzzle, according to our source, is something most of us have heard about, but maybe not in this way. It's the law of karma. So the source explains karma pretty simply. It's the universal law of cause and effect. What you do has consequences, and those consequences can follow you through a cycle of rebirth, what we call reincarnation. But here's where it gets really interesting. The lecture claims this isn't just an Eastern idea. It argues that even Jesus talked about being a reincarnation of masters who came before him.
And here, the source tries to connect these ideas across different religions. The argument is that this principle, this moral you reap what you sow, isn't just for Eastern faiths. It points to ideas in the main texts of Taoism and to the moral codes you find in Islam and other traditions. At the end of the day, the message is the same everywhere. What you do matters a lot. And check out this specific example from the Tao Te Ching. Heaven's way is impartial. It always sides with the good person. I mean, it's such a simple, elegant way of putting it, right? It's cause and effect. If you do good things, the universe itself is on your side. And the source says, see, that's karma. It's just using different words. Okay, so we've got this shared idea of cause and effect, a common moral compass. But that's just scratching the surface. The source says there's something way, way deeper, a kind of secret connection that's not just about being a good person, but about the very nature of reality itself. And this really gets us to the heart of it all. If there's truly one single method, one master key that fits every spiritual lock, what on earth is it? The answer, according to the source, is something it calls the inner sound. Or in the speaker's native Vietnamese, Noi Um. Now, this isn't a sound you hear with your ears. It's described as something more like a primal vibration, the actual creative energy of the universe. And the claim is that this sound is not only what made everything, but it's also our personal hotline back to the source. Okay, so again, evidence. Where does this idea show up? Well, take a look at this super famous line from the Christian Bible. In the beginning was the Word.
The source argues that the word here doesn't mean a spoken word. It means this creative sound, this vibration, a sound that isn't just with God, but is God and is the source of everything.
Now hold that thought and look at this. This is from Buddhist scripture. It talks about a stream of sound that Buddhas use to help people, and it's the same stream of sound we can use to return to our true original selves. So what the source is doing here is putting these two quotes side by side, one from Christianity, one from Buddhism, and saying, look, they're talking about the exact same thing. So what's the point of this inner sound? Why does it matter? Well, the logic presented by the source goes like this. If everything in the universe, including our own karma, is made out of this original sound, then connecting back to that sound is like putting something dirty back into the furnace where it was forged. It just burns away the impurities. It's a way to wash away our karmic baggage. All right, so if this inner sound is the universal plug, the big question is, how do you plug in? How do you actually connect with it? And that brings us to the actual method, the path itself. The source gives this universal key a name, the Kuan Yin method, and it's presented not as some new religion you have to join, but as the age-old technique to meditate on this inner sound. The claim is that this exact technique has always been there at the heart of every real spiritual tradition, even if it was called something else.
So let's just recap what this method is all about, according to the source. First, it's for anyone, from any faith background. It's not about converting. It's about giving you a practical tool. You could be a Christian who wants to directly experience the Word, for example. The big idea is that this is supposed to be that single, hidden key inside all religions that helps us tackle the biggest questions we all have about life and about death.
Which leaves us with a really big question to think about. If this source is right, if the core practice and the ultimate truth really are the same for everyone, no matter the religion, then what does being a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist really mean? Is it about the name and the culture you follow, or is it about the personal inner journey on the path itself? Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.